Dear Evelyn, the immense popularity of Game of Thrones might be put down, at least in part, to its unpredictability. The death of its central characters is something that keeps us on the edge of our seat throughout the series. As George R.R. Martin himself says,
I want my readers and I want my viewers to be afraid when my characters are in danger. I want them to be afraid to turn the next page because the next character may not survive it.
But there is a deeper point to Game of Thrones' unpredictable deaths, that death itself is anything but unpredictable. It is an inevitability.
Vala Morgulis.
Vala Morgulis.
All men must die.
Good.
And just like the tragedies of ancient Athens, the Game of Thrones universe might be doing something deeply therapeutic in displaying our fears so vividly on screen. The Game of Thrones characters have broadly two approaches to death. One is to seek hope in an eternal afterlife, and the other is to accept death's finality with resolve. The first requires one to accept the teachings of the Lord of Light, whom its adherents call the one true God, a figure who battles against the great other representative of darkness and death. The Lord of Light offers hope of an eternal afterlife, of life beyond death. The other response is that of stoicism in the face of death, embodied especially by Jon Snow, who, upon being resurrected by the Lord of Light, asks the priestess Melisandre not to do so again. Faced with the inevitability of our own eventual deaths, it is worth looking at a world in which death is ever present, and asking, how should we approach our own death? Scared by the prospect of a final heartbeat, a last breath, a conclusion to our experiences, we might wish to live forever. But Bernard Williams argues that immortality, however presented, would not be a good thing. He says that there are things we desire in order to live, conditional desires, and things we desire that we live for, categorical desires. This second kind is the stuff that makes lives worth living and defines us as people. These categorical desires are things such as raising our children, forming friendships, and pursuing our vocations. The problem with eternal life is that these desires eventually become dulled as the infinity of decades rolls by. And either life will lose all of its meaning and we will want it no more, or we must invent new categorical desires, and in so doing utterly redefine ourselves, losing our identity, which is its own kind of death. Williams says that premature death is, of course, a tragedy because their categorical desires had not been fulfilled, but living into eternity is also a tragedy because we'd have nothing left to live for. There are reasons, then, for not wanting to live forever. And it is reasonable for Jon Snow not to want to be eternally resurrected. But too often in Game of Thrones, as in real life, people are killed before their categorical desires can be fulfilled, and we are left with scant comfort there. Nowhere can this more clearly be seen than in the Red Wedding. We had followed Robb Stark through his righteous uprising in the north and his happy life with his pregnant wife Talisa Stark, only to watch in horror as they are cut down. Perhaps Marcus Aurelius echoes our thoughts best. You should always look on human life as short and cheap. Yesterday's sperm, tomorrow a mummy or ashes. However, it is not the Red Wedding that we should remember, but the life that preceded it. When we watch a TV program centered on death or consider the philosophical problems of death, we often overlook the thing that makes it all possible, the life that preceded it. This is how Marcus Aurelius finishes his thought. So one should pass through this tiny fragment of time, in tune with nature, and leave it gladly, as an olive might fall when ripe, blessing the earth which bore it, and grateful to the tree which gave it growth. Sweet dreams.
Well, that was a little bit morbid. I promise you something significantly lighter, possibly showbiz themed next week. Subscribe and I'll see you there. Bye.